Hello, everybody. My name is Joel Filderman, and welcome to the Dog Trainers Connection. I am not a dog trainer, but these other people you see here are. We get together, we discuss a topic, come up with some thoughts, some ideas, sometimes some answers, but we always have an interesting discussion. For today's topic, well, I wanted to wish you all happy National Dog Training Education Month. Evidently, that's what February is now. I believe we've had a discussion along those lines in the past, but I'm curious because it's been a while since we've talked about it. So what I'm really interested in finding out from you today, trainers, is what is it that you think because what the purpose is in this is supposedly it's about educating people about dogs and getting them to train their dogs and things like that. So we've gone through some interesting times, as we all know. So what I really am curious to find out from you today, trainers, is what is it that you think dog owners don't know that they need to know? What's missing? Bonnie and I were talking earlier, and she mentioned something about we live up in the Hudson Valley in New York, and there's been a big thing going on about dogs being off leash. And Bonnie was like, well, why aren't people following that? What do they need to know? Bonnie, and why don't you
Okay.
Go off of that.
Okay. You froze a little bit there, Joel. So
yeah, my internet connection is unstable. But
okay. Wonder if that means mine will be too.
I don't know.
Yeah, I was when Joel told me that that was the topic in our Facebook community thread. There's a lot of hiking around here, a lot of trails, and a common thread is that people and dogs are supposed to be leashed there. And I believe there are signs on most of the trails, yes, but people don't. And people have been attacked by off-leash dogs. There have been dogs attacked, and it's an probably every month somebody either tells a horror story about what happened to them, or just they're upset about it. And it just amazes me that, and I don't know if that's just people feeling entitled, or if they have a friendly dog, they feel it's okay, or they need to give their dogs that freedom to be loose. But I don't know how you get through to people of the importance of that, and also the danger to them, to their dogs, to another person, to the other person's dog. How do you get to people to make them understand the importance of that? And
anybody want to comment on that?
Such a huge struggle. Start with that. I think part of the issue, personally, is there's a lot of people who think that, oh, well, because their dog is great at home, it's good everywhere. There's the people who there's a bigger picture of the unrealistic expectations that people have, that, what is it that dog owners need? Dog owners need to understand that these are not Disney dogs, that these are real living creatures, and the dog in front of you may never turn out like the dog you had that you remember as a kid. The dog you had as a kid, your parents raised. You did not raise that dog. You got to enjoy wonderful memories of that dog, but you probably were not the person who gave it manners. Everybody wants that dog they had as a child, and they don't know how they ended up with that dog. So I think that's part of it, is that people have this vision of, oh, we're going hiking. Dogs should be off leash. They should be allowed to be dogs.
Roam and be free.
Right. Be free, be animals, do what they're, what they want to do. And they just don't really understand that there is an etiquette to walking your dog, and dogs don't all, just like I don't want some stranger running up to me and, hey, how you doing? And putting their face in my face and touching me and that sort of thing. Dogs don't want that either. That's another issue I think people have, is they don't really realize adult dogs don't really necessarily want or need friends.
And maybe, Pam, I was just thinking, maybe it's not enough to just put up a sign and saying your dog has to be leashed. Maybe a town or a community needs to have a session with people, or the mayor, or the people that run the town, to come on and call a town hall meeting and talk about it and say, this is important, and what other issues are you having with your dogs, and where you can get help, and something more.
And on that note, the chief of police in my town used to teach dog obedience classes. They just called it dog class for 30 years. He apprenticed as a dog trainer in 1965. He was already a police officer.
Wow.
And he taught classes here in my town for 30 years until his retirement. Everybody took their dog to his classes. Everybody went through his classes. It was very normal. It was through the town rec department. I live in a town of 7,100 people, 7,000 people roughly. Jim's been retired now for 3 or 4 years, and there's been no replacement. I went to the town offices to ask them, I'll take up the dog classes that Jim used to do. I've participated in them for years. No, we really don't want dogs in the building anymore. You can use our outdoor space. I'm like, yeah, this is Vermont. February in Vermont outdoors is not really where anybody wants to be.
Yeah.
I can use my own backyard if I want to be outdoors. That's not really what I was hoping for. So people don't know where to go. They don't know who to ask. And, dog classes have become fewer and further between.
Is some of it that magic thinking you were talking about, Pam, but also that magic thinking of that they see all these things on TV, and they see the trainers who are famous, and my dog can do that too, and everything's fine. Is some of it that, Jeff?
Oh, there's a lot to unfold here, unpack.
Okay.
I guess we'll start with the hiking scenario, because I just had a Zoom about this. And it's a dog that I knew personally. The dog was with me down here for a few months, and the rescue found him a home, and she was hiking, and she got charged by 2 large dogs, friendly dogs, thank God. And the dog was selective, but generally okay, unless there was an all-out assertive dog in the dog's environment. So nothing bad happened. So the crux of our conversation, she wanted to know about muzzle training. And I told her, I'm not opposed to muzzle training. I'm opposed to muzzling my dog in that situation, because what if they weren't friendly? Now your dog can't defend himself. So that was kind of the crux of our conversation, as it surrounds that particular, especially hiking. I mean, a single woman with their dog hiking. I mean, I watch horror movies, like, like I said, I am very open-minded when it comes to tools. Everyone knows that. I would never muzzle my dog in that situation. I would never want to put my dog in a situation where I had to defend them against a larger animal, because, I mean, humans generally don't have a good shot if it's a large, aggressive mammal coming at them. So, we did just have that conversation, and it was the exact scenario. The dogs were off leash, and, and she was saying, hey, can you get your dogs, this, that, and the other thing. So why people do it, I don't know. Signs should be enough, period.
Sure.
There is no excuse. So if I get pulled over for drunk driving at 2 a.m, what am I going to say? Well, officer, no one was on the road, so it's okay, right? If there's no one in the woods, is it okay? Yeah, until someone's in the woods, right?
Yeah.
My dogs are generally benign in the presence of other animals. If another dog charges us, I'm dropping the leash. And as much as I love pit bulls, I'm going to let them be pit bulls because my dog is not getting hurt because you're an asshole. That's just me with my personal pets.
Right.
But I always follow the law. I have my dogs leashed where appropriate. I'm a trainer. I don't need to. That's another thing. You talk about dog owners. What about the trainers that need to flex their muscles out in public? Right? That's just as bad, if not worse, because we should be an example of following the law and responsible pet ownership. I don't need to take my dog downtown Wilmington and show how good they are off leash. Is he? Yeah, God forbid I fell down and
That's what
something
you mean by that.
happened.
Yeah, I understand.
Thank God my dog is reliable and we have a really solid relationship, but I don't need to prove that to anyone. I think what people, if dog owners, if they need to learn one thing, it's accountability.
Right.
And that translates through a lot of different areas in our society today.
Of course. Yeah.
Accountability. They are not, first and foremost, dogs are not disposable. They're a commitment. They require work. They require effort. And I think, classes are good, but you know what would be good if somehow, some way we had some kind of invention where at the touch of our fingers, we could type something in and poof, any answer we need would come to us. Whoa. Oh, wait a minute. We have that. That's right. There's not a question that a dog owner has that can't be answered. And granted, some of the answers are shitty, but
yeah.
I mean, for basic dog ownership stuff, I mean, smartphones, the internet, Alexa, Siri, you name it. Accountability is definitely something that dog owners need to, they need to step up and start being accountable as guardians over their pets.
Right.
So it's, again, there's a lot to unpack here because there's so many facets of education. And I could tell you, I'm critical of people. My personal shortcoming, if you will, is what's common sense to me is not necessarily common sense to like a first-time dog owner. And that's where I fall short sometimes. And I have to be careful because maybe they just don't know, right? So we could take that as an opportunity to educate them. But once they're educated, they have no excuse. Case in point, how many posts do you see on Facebook? Oh, my dog got out. It's the 6th time that my dog got out. Does anyone have any suggestions? Yeah, after the first time, it's your fault. And no one seems to accept that responsibility.
Right.
Yep.
So, I would say one word: accountability.
Okay. And then, so David, why aren't people accountable? What do you think?
I think because there's no repercussions. Unfortunately, there's no one really to sit there and monitor it, 24/7. It's not enough people, and kind of getting what Bonnie was saying is we could educate people and stuff like that, but it's easier said than done. And you see these, like you're talking about, the dog trainer on TV that are also pop and whatnot. That's not really education. They're just getting a frou-frou approach of the whole thing.
Right. They're getting entertainment.
Yeah. And I think, I can't blame the dog owner in this respect that it's not cookie cutter. They feel, well, this person did this to get the dog to do that. So why does everyone do that? Well, that sounds good on the surface, but as we all know, one thing doesn't always work for every dog. You have to depend on the situation, the environment, etc. And I can put my area that I live in as a perfect example. I can't tell you how many times I have to go around people and say, the person will approach with the dog. Oh, excuse me, I'm just gonna go this way. And then I said, can you just not move, take your dog, close to mine? I said, he's not comfortable. And they give you a look like, what's going on? My dog is friendly. My dog is friendly. Yeah, but mine's not too comfortable. So you make my dog uncomfortable because of that? And I've done everything I can with my dog. He was right from the get-go. We had him like 9 weeks old. He was very insecure from the get-go. So a lot of it was just genetic. And I socialized the best I could. I had him on some medications. So it is what it is. But I think that's what it is. It's accountability. And somewhat change the subject, but it's all in the same scenario. I'll give you a perfect example. I don't like to take our dog. I don't take our dogs walking at night. It's half the time they don't clean up after their dog. They have poop all over the place. I can't tell me how many times I stepped in crap. And about 3 weeks ago, there was a sign posted on I wish I had it still on a tree. There's like 3 signs. and this person says, we have you on video, not picking up after your dog. If you don't pick up, we're going to report you to the 911 precinct or whatever it is around here. And if that doesn't work, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And so after that, there was no more poop. So my point being is, if you had something, I mean, easier said than done. If you had something like that, hey, if your dog is not on leash, we have you on video. We got you caught. Even if you have to make it up, how do they know if you're on video or not? You know, they don't know. But
Right.
you know, it's that kind of thing. And then you get the people, we all know, with retractable leashes. You know, the retractable leashes are the worst. You know, if you're up in God's country, you know, somewhere out, that's one thing. You know, they have their place, but generally speaking, it, you know, as we all know, it's you know, you get 3 feet out. Next thing you know, the dog's pulling. If it's a big enough dog, now it's 6 feet or 8 feet or whatever it is. And I've worked with some people too, where I had told her once before this, when I was working with, you gotta get the other leash. And she went to put it down on it. And there's a plastic mechanism. That plastic mechanism was history. It broke inside. So the dog just went right out to the 20 feet or whatever it was that had on the retractable. So, you know, so that's just it. You know, some dogs aren't comfortable being approached, you know, and that can just, like we're all talking about, into a fight. So,
right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I know, I was just going to say, and we're dog trainers and are so conscious of all of those variables and what we do with our own dogs. And I do think it's education, it's the towns, it's enforcing, or like you said, Jeff, accountability and some kind of enforcement. And repercussions from disobeying the rules that keep people and their dogs safe.
And Steve, how much is it that people don't know and how much is it that people don't care?
Let's start with this. I think screw the rules. You know, let's start with because you know what? I think that we've changed. The way we were raised, I think, is a little different than what's happening now. I mean, we were all about how do we get the dog to fit into our family? And how do we raise it well? How do we train it right? How do we get it to respond, obey? You know, all those things. Some of these terms now are like curses. Or you make your dog be obedient?
Sure.
It's the whole thing's flipped.
It's flipped.
Flipped. You know, we're all here dog trainers talking about dog training. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear about how to give the dog the best life. It's like, get him his own couch. Forget about the leash. Forget about putting a collar on him, for God's sake. You better use a harness because, you know, you don't want to hurt him. And like the whole thing's flipped. Like you got to think about their perception of what it's supposed to be. You know, we have ours, but if we keep trying to slam a round peg into a square hole, it's not happening.
And you know, why do you think that is, Steve? Why do you think it has flipped?
I don't know. Look out the window. I say the whole thing is messed up, but you know, like just sorry. I'm just taking a spot for a minute.
So then, Steve, how would you approach this new way of thinking? Then, I mean, is there an approach to dealing with people to get them to be more like us in that way?
Well, wait a minute. Maybe we need to be like, we need to share, you know, it's not
okay.
Flip them into us, but how about, when I talk about accountability, it's like this. For years, I've been saying dog parks should look like batting cages, right? Where it's not one big fenced or two, a big dog and a little dog. There's dozens of fenced spaces on the same amount of property. Some are bigger, some are smaller. You have to pay money to open the door for a certain amount of time for you and your dog to play ball, because dogs need to run off the leash. They need that. I'm sorry, you know, I can't take that from the dog because people are irresponsible and unaccountable. Dogs need to run safely. How do you do that? Well, you can't do it in a dog park with all those dogs because it's dangerous. And you can't do it on a hiking trail because you don't know who the hell's coming around the corner and whose dog's what and who feels whose dog's anxious and nervous and whose dog's not. And all. I don't want to have to worry about that. I can go into a separate space area fence, safe for the dog. I can throw the frisbee. I can rent out a small space. I'm not talking about a lot of money, but somebody's got to clean these things. And of course, if you go to the city and say, I would like you to turn this space into this, they're going to say we can't afford it. Well, guess
Mhm.
what? It doesn't have to cost you very much money. You just got to buy the fencing and get some engineer to lay it out so you can get the maximum number of spaces. And if you get to the park and they're all used, you got to wait. Take a number. You'll be able to get in there at some point. But the dogs don't have to be together. But if you go and you meet your friend there, get a bigger space and you two go in there. It's just your two dogs. You close the gate behind you. Done. So it's
Thank you.
about not just changing the perception of people. It's about what's going on out on the road. You can't get them to fix a friggin' pothole. And I'm
Mm.
looking to try and change the nature of dog parks. Now, I keep looking at all these Australian dog trainers and stuff who have to suffer with livestock killing and all that stuff. And, there's a lot of turmoil in Australia and in Europe about the shock collar and all that. But these are people who are like, we're on like acres of open space and they want to go for a walk with their dog off the leash. If the dog's going to kill somebody's livestock, they're not being accountable. So these guys, who are all
Mhm.
okay, let's teach the dog a little avoidance around the livestock. And yet they show you the before and the after videos, and you say to yourself, this dog now has freedom because the recalls are great. The dog will come flying back. When it looks at a sheep, it turns around and starts heading back to the handler. No command necessary. The dogs don't look beaten. They're trained.
Mhm.
Now, we don't live in a society, or certainly I don't live in a place where the people are going to be running out and hiring a seasoned trainer, teach them how to use that tool. These days, most people think that tool should be out, but that tool gives those people their dog's freedom and the livestock people nothing to talk about. It's not, I lost 3 sheep this week. Those friggin' dogs, these people are coming on my.
Mm.
Mhm.
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 There are answers. As Jeff says, you can't put a muzzle on a dog if you're cutting it loose because if it gets attacked and it gets injured, not dead, it's going to be way worse defensive. You've just now ruined your own dog by taking away its opportunity to defend itself. That's
Right.
Mhm.
that's crazy. And like you say, signs aren't going to work. And how are you going to catch up with these people? I mean, they can't catch up with an unlicensed vet tech, right? I mean, I always wondered, people spend thousands of dollars to go to school, get the license so they can work in an animal hospital. And they got all these people who just like schmooze in and they got some old vet who says, I'm going to teach you the ways and all this stuff. But there are, in New York State, I think half or more states require licensed technicians
Mhm.
rules about what a licensed tech can do versus not. In Westchester County, twice somebody got caught. $10,000 fine for each of them for having an
Wow.
unlicensed technician. I was saying this is happening everywhere. You can go into almost any animal hospital and dig up somebody who's doing the wrong thing. But
Mhm.
not legal. I'm not even going to say they're bad at it. They may be great technicians, but they don't have
Sure.
to. They shouldn't be doing it. How
Mhm.
come they're not walking into all of them? Because it turns out that the group that monitors doctors, nurses, all the nurses, LPNs, RNs,
Yep.
all the whole Megillah, veterinarians, you got like 6 people in New York State who like have to travel around and visit these places unannounced.
Mhm.
They're gonna come around to vet techs? Who's coming around to worry about us picking up dog shit, or letting their dog off the leash, right? I mean, it's really
Yeah.
hard. So if we have to struggle anyway, in terms of them, meaning like, city ordinances, state, whatever, governmental stuff, well, let them redesign the park so people can take their dog off the leash. If that's what people want to do, then give them a place to do it. You can't do it on the trail, but if you want to do this, because I understand you want to exercise your dog, here's a safe place that it is legit. You can go there. It'll cost you $1 to put your dog in there for 45 minutes. You can go in there and play. I mean, you got to give them something. It's not all our way of, all right, we got to train these dogs. Because we've been beating up people for years. I've been beating on people for 50 years. You know what I mean? Nothing's
Mm.
happened. It doesn't, you can only beat so much, right? And they're only going to listen to what they want to hear and they're only going to do what they want to do. Once you're gone and you've done your session and you leave, they're free to misbehave just like their dogs,
Mhm.
right? So,
So
that's,
does anyone think, just out of curiosity, when David mentioned flexi leashes and retractable leashes. I have some concerns about all of these 2-week wonders, for lack of a better term, who are out there sending people out with remote collars on every dog. And the dog was in for a 2-week board and train. They get sent home with a remote collar, and I use remote collars. I'm not opposed to them. But pet owners who think that their dog is now off leash reliable because they have a button in their hand that they think is a remote control, and they can just click the button and their dog will
stop magically. And
I have concerns about out in public, hiking, those kind of scenarios. I have toy dogs. I don't take my dogs in those environments. That's setting them up to fail. But for people who do, I have concerns about that too. Is that one of the reasons people feel free to, I'll just let my dog off leash because he's off leash reliable, but he's not.
The first thing that popped into my head when you said that, Pam, and you're posing that question, and, David's talking about, they watch the television program. They actually go hand in hand, because people watch a half-hour TV program, which is really 23 minutes of time, right? Yep. And there's some disconnect. Maybe, I don't know, do they really think it takes 23 minutes to train a dog, and they don't realize that it could take 6 months or longer to achieve reliability in one obedience behavior? And for anyone watching, if you don't know what reliability means to us, right? Reliability to a dog trainer means that your dog will perform that function under any circumstance. Can we all agree on that definition of reliability?
Sit means sit in the house, outside, on the pavement, on the asphalt, everywhere.
Yeah. Remember back in the day, at least when I first started training, there was no sit stay. It was sit until further notice. Now it's stay. Okay, I'm good boy. Right? I mean, I do all that goofy shit. I admit it. I don't mind. But back in the day, it was sit. That was it, right? So reliability for anyone watching doesn't take a a half-hour TV show. Yeah. It doesn't take one remote control because your dog went 2 weeks of training. It takes a long time to establish trust, reliability, all that stuff. And the only way to do that is to work our dogs. And Steve talks about it all the time. I talk about it all the time, right? Yep. What happens in your living room doesn't necessarily happen even in your front yard.
Yeah, because as we all know, they don't generalize well. So different people, different environments, different locations, different circumstances.
Right. And even then, right, what do? We work the shit out of dogs. We expose them to as many environments as we possibly can. And even trainers that have been doing this a long time, our hope is that they generalize, but we never really know. You never really know. I mean, I took Deuce to Columbus County Fair a bunch of years. I knew he was good with kids. I never knew how he'd be in front of 700 kindergarten kids, because how the hell am I supposed to emulate that environment? I had a feeling he'd be okay, but reliability and the reliance on the remote collar and proper use of it, right?
Yeah,
why does the cattle work in Australia works? Because there's no association with the owner and the cattle and the collar. The association is between the cattle and the collar. The owner's not part of the equation. This is another disconnect of the misinformation surrounding e-collars, right? I was hired a few weeks ago. I went to a home. They were using an e-collar and the dog was terrified of the guy. And he came in the living room. The dog was chewing on his slipper and he zapped him. He's like, he knew what I meant. I'm like, no, what you taught the dog is, first of all, the dog was chewing on the slipper probably for a good 5 minutes. You present yourself and then all of a sudden the dog gets zapped. Now you're the reason why the dog got zapped, right? Like any other training. But yeah, Pam, that's a good question you pose.
Because I'm shocked at the number of remote collars I see out there in the world.
One analogy I put, and I still don't think it gets. I think they think it's kind of a cute little analogy, through whatever. But I say, listen, it's the same thing with people. We're the same way. Am I reliable? Yeah, 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, I'm reliable. But if someone was to put a gun to my head and say, you better rob that bank or you're dead, am I going to rob the bank? Of course I am. Most likely I will, or at least attempt to, right? So the dog, same thing. Dog goes back and forth from point A to point B every day, no issues, never a problem. All of a sudden, it sees some dog, going over that interested, or a squirrel, or a truck that scares it, whatever. it's going to react,
That's it.
appropriately, depending on how it's react. And that one dog never won 5 before. That one trunk never won 5 before. Or that one backfire never happened before.
Right.
So it's.
So that seems like a good place to stop today. It sounds to me like accountability is the one word that I can take out of this, and accountability for people, and I guess accountability for the animals as well, and reliability for the animals. So, and Bonnie, you wanted to?
Yeah, I just wanted to announce we're having a separation anxiety roundtable discussion for trainers, pet owners. You're welcome to come and listen, dog walkers, to come and talk about the challenges we have with those cases and with the pandemic and people. I know Jeff had a session on YouTube recently, and he talked to his client about it, about dogs having issues being home alone.
And when is that, Bonnie?
It's Wednesday, March 2nd at 7:30. And if you go on our Facebook page, you can get the link there to sign up on Eventbrite, and it's reasonably priced. And we're also doing one on marketing on Wednesday, March 16th, marketing for dog trainers. So to get clients. So please stay tuned for the announcement on that one.
All right.
And it was great seeing you all and being here.
Good seeing everybody else.
With that, I would like to thank you all for being here today. Great to see you all. Great to see you folks as well. And thank you for being here as well. And we will see you next time.
And subscribe to our channel.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and we'll see you next time.
Give this video a thumbs up.
Give us a video a thumbs up. Anything else I missed, Rose? All right,
Steve, I'm sorry, Joel.
No, it's fine.
You're good at that.
All right.
Yeah, you're good at that.
All right, folks. We'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Yeah.